conversation, and it isn't just talk. If I could only give you everything, you know I haven't got. I couldn't have one conversation if it wasn't for the lies. And still I wanna tell you everything till I close my eyes. Suddenly I'm wrong.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. We are live. Today is October 26, 2008.
Well, it's good that you point this out because, on the one hand, blurring the line really shouldn't be that big of a problem. When people in the past have said something like, well, do you believe in God? And I say no, and then they humorously go, well, you know, he exists. And I said, well, or anything like that. You know, do you believe in a coffee cup? Because it exists. Do you believe in monogamy? Monogamy exists. It's kind of sad that we have to delineate. When somebody says, I believe in monogamy, the phrase believe in should take on a connotation about the efficacy of.
Right.
And instead you should use the phrase believe that, as in I believe that monogamy
Right.
is a system and type thing. And the fact that we have to make these distinctions is kind of silly, and the real only reason we do is that people are blurring the lines.
Right.
Because they'll say, I believe the Bible,
Right.
or I believe in the Bible,
Right.
and you would normally take that to mean that they believe that the Bible is correct and accurate and a moral guide, and then when you question them about specific
Right.
aspects, oh, well, I don't believe that.
Well, but there's also sort of a problem, and I think it's what I'm thinking of as equivocation, where if we're talking about their belief that it's morally correct, and they're switching back and forth to factually correct, they're sort of addressing two different arguments. And so if I'm talking to somebody about what they believe, and their belief encompasses two separate things that can be clearly delineated, and they keep switching back and forth from one to the other during the dialogue, it becomes very difficult for me to have a linear conversation
Right.
with that person.
Right. Changed frames.
Right. So let's see, where did I stop? I'm seeing people blur that line in discussions about the Bible, and these two concepts should not be lumped together. The Christian literalist must assert both, number one and number two, that it's factually correct and that they accept it morally. But I'm seeing more and more, some of them are willing to do this, but some of them aren't. There are some literalists who are saying, I believe the Bible, but who aren't able to justify the morality put forward in the Bible, and who are conflicted by the moral examples and instructions from the model of God put forward in the Bible. Most literalists or fundamentalists seem very solid on number one, the Bible is factually correct. But if you get into details about the moral examples and teachings, they begin to get murky with regard to number two, and sometimes have a lot of difficulty defending what they claim is their belief. Which makes no sense, since beliefs originate, when I'm saying my belief, that is something that originates within a person and is not externally imposed. So if it's my belief that X is moral, why should I feel conflicted in saying X is moral? It boils down to a conflict that goes something like this. Number one, everything the Bible teaches is factually correct. Number two, the Bible teaches God is moral. Number three, if the Bible teaches that God instructs something is moral that I would normally consider immoral, I must be wrong. I've begun to notice that even though a Christian may assert number three, that the Bible must be moral and I must be wrong if I disagree with it, the internal moral judgment within them that disagrees does not magically go away.
Right.
And I have most recently seen this expressed as, quote, conflict and, quote, discomfort. So we have a situation where I'm saying, to go back to the example, that I am intellectually telling myself my partner is faithful, but internally I feel conflicted. If I really believe my partner is faithful, however, there should be no conflict. It appears that my intellectual recognition of the situation as being my partner is faithful has not actually concurred with my belief that I don't trust my partner. In other words, I'm willing to move forward acting as though my partner is faithful and deny my own belief that my partner is not trustworthy.
Or that you're uncertain about whether...
Right. But I mean, if I'm uncertain that you're trustworthy, then I don't believe you're
Then
trustworthy.
yes.
Okay.
But there's a difference between not believing that they're trustworthy and believing that they're not trustworthy.
Correct. And, yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And it's the same thing as not believing that there is a God and believing that there are no gods. There is I mean, it's
Right. If
you
I'm
draw it out on
unsure,
paper or
if I'm
logical symbols.
if I'm unsure about my spouse's fidelity, then I cannot say I believe they're faithful. But that doesn't mean I believe they're cheating. It just simply means I don't believe
Right.
either because I don't know what's going on and I'm not sure. I understand that there are some literalist Christians who will assert that absolutely anything in the Bible that it says is instructed by God is moral.
Yep.
There are Christians who have no compunction about saying that.
It's
and
the I brought you into this world, I
right,
can take you out.
right, and so they're just like, whatever God commands, it's moral, I don't care what it is. That is not the person that I'm addressing today.
Yeah,
Because
there's-
that person literally has no beliefs. That person is simply saying it's all true, and I simply just disregard that I have any beliefs at all. I don't question myself about this. I don't ask myself whether I agree with it. I simply do, I do agree with it.
There's actually a
with
phrase
other-
that was
with other-
popular when I was going to church that was, God said it, I believe it, and that settles it for me.
Right.
And then that was corrected because some really anal retentive literalists found out that there's a huge mistake in there, and it's the same mistake to some degree that Tracy's pointing out. And so the new phrase became, God said it, that settles it. Doesn't matter whether you believe it or
Right.
not, that settles it.
Right, and that's the point. It's like these are not people who are, they basically are saying, I have no right to question it, I don't question it, simply this is what's said, so it is right, period. I don't even think about it. I don't think about whether or not I agree with it. I don't ask myself whether or not I agree with it. I merely assert that I do agree with it because that's what's said. And that's not the person I'm talking about, because that person, as far as I'm concerned, has been absorbed by the meme. I mean, they're not thinking anymore. They have just simply turned themselves over to a blind doctrine. They're not going to question this. They'll acknowledge they're not questioning it, that it is just dictated.
And you're part of the Christian Borg.
Right, and that person, to be fair, is actually consistent. And when they say that they believe the Bible, they believe it's factually correct and morally correct. However, their statement is that it's morally correct based on blind faith, because they will not use personal moral judgment. So they have no basis upon which to assert the teachings are actually moral. They simply accept the claim that they are moral without question, which is two different things. For the person who has a sense of moral judgment, that hasn't been utterly destroyed yet by religious indoctrination. Issues like, should I murder an entire race worth of infants because I'm at war with another nation, can be problematic. So if you're struggling with these types of moral questions, then you understand the dilemma. If I can't trust my own moral judgment, upon what grounds can I assert this command or example is moral? And the fact is, you can't. You either have to go blindly into the belief that an instruction is moral without being able to base that statement on any real moral judgment of your own, in which case you're really only supporting it whether it's moral or not. And you can't know whether it is moral or not. And further, you can't care. Or you have to be willing to say that if you can't trust your own moral judgment, you have no basis upon which to be asserting anything is moral or immoral. So if the Bible puts forward a model of God that instructs slavery, mass infanticide, genocide, cruel and inhumane punishments, and many other actions and systems that we would consider brutal or immoral today, how did any person come to the conclusion that God is moral in the first place? Even if I believed that Jehovah exists, when the Bible claims Jehovah is moral or righteous, wouldn't the support for that assertion be the way in which Jehovah behaves, whether morally or immorally? If the claim is made that Jehovah is moral, but he instructs atrocities, why should I believe the claim that Jehovah is moral? And if I believe God's own claim that it is moral on the grounds that I cannot judge, how would I ever know, even if a God exists, that I haven't agreed to follow an immoral God? And that's a huge dilemma.
If your God says that he's moral and you buy that,
Right.
then morality no longer matters at all. You are just obeying the fiat declarations of whatever. I mean, it'd be like saying, I'm the best husband you'll ever have, and I know that I beat you, but that's a good thing because it's for your own good. I mean, that's really what it comes
Right.
down to.
Reputation, and it isn't just talk. If I could only give you everything you